from the heart. Stories honest and true. The one, the only. The human canvas you. Hello and welcome to The Human Canvas, the podcast where we explore our unique lived experiences, exploring the lives of people from all walks, diving into their unique journeys, their challenges, their passions, and the moments that have shaped who they are today. I'm your host, Nicholas Graham Hall, and today I'm honored to welcome to the podcast author and educator, Kristi Trader. Hello, Kristi.
Hey, Nicholas. Good to hear from
Hi.
you.
Yeah, it's great to see you. And we're going to be talking about kindness and grace today. We're going to be diving deep. And as you know, as everybody knows, the point of the Human Canvas podcast is to talk about our individual lived experiences. So we're not going to be talking about what you should do, what you out there should do around kindness and grace. We're going to be talking about our own lived experiences with kindness and grace. So, Kristi, if you wouldn't mind, I like my guests to be able to introduce themselves and to share a bit about themselves and however you want, whether it's your work in the world, and obviously in your personal life and background, and that'll help us dive into our conversation.
Sure. Yeah, so I interesting enough, and you and I have had this conversation. I have come, I think, to my work based on my personal experience. And if you would have asked me 20, 30 years ago what I'd be doing, it would not be what I'm currently doing. I had a very what I thought was a straight and narrow path. I was going to be working in healthcare. I was pre-med, and I got to clinicals in nursing. And I had this kind of like little crisis of I thought I knew what I wanted to do since I was like a little girl. And now that I'm in this space, I'm feeling like I would have to marry this system to change it. It felt so dysfunctional to me.
Hmm.
Um, and I think there was this disconnect between knowledge and compassion.
Hmm.
And I found myself really wrestling with, do I want to do this for the rest of my life?
Hmm.
Um, and so I swung the pendulum all the way to the other end. And I got a theology degree and I worked as a pastoral counselor for a while, which was super interesting, opened my eyes to the world in ways I would have never imagined. Like I think for me, like maybe theory and self-help books kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but really experiencing the weight of people's worlds,
Hmm.
the weight of their everyday, like grief, joy, sadness, sorrow, happiness, elation,
Yeah.
and trying to make sense of that human journey. Um,
Wow. That's so interesting. You were going down this path of sort of treating the body bag we carry around with us, and you were just like, wow, it's like this sounds like that this experience is far deeper than that. And so, and then, like you said, uh, you swing the other way to a theology degree, which is, yeah, as I know you, I'm not surprised by either. Um,
yeah.
and so and at what age did I'm curious, at what age did you have this sense? And it sounds like caring for others. And, there was a particular, that was, you had it as you were going to express that in healthcare. But it seems like with your work, maybe you could share a little bit
Yeah.
more about, what your work is today. But, and obviously we'll talk about that. But, yeah, it was an expression of caring for others. It seems like that's consistent, irregardless. But
Yeah.
someone told me that's not a word, sorry. Regardless of how it was expressed.
Yeah. And I think to your point, it's expressed in different ways, right? So I think from the time I was young, I remember, I distinctly remember being about 5 or 6. And the reason six comes to mind is I grew up in a very religious household. Our parents baptized us at that age. And I remember having this feeling that I couldn't describe. Like there was nothing scholarly or academic or very black and white that I could point to. It just felt like this feeling of something bigger. Um,
Huh.
and when I say that, I think I mean,
Did they baptize you because you were because of their role in the particular church or just
yeah,
yeah, uh-huh.
yep, yeah. So we, yeah, started in the church, kids get baptized. Um, and it was then that I remember feeling this like connection to a greater whole, like a larger humanity, like people, and not really understanding it. And then I think the path that I took initially in terms of this interest in medicine felt more black and white. To your point about caring, it's like, sure, I can care for people, but there's a very clear way that this is done. There's policies, there's procedures, there's ways in which we know that this works.
Mm,
Um, and then I think, the swing over to more the compassion, kindness, and really going like, oh, this is deeper than, to your point, this body bag that we're carrying around.
mm,
Um, and I think I was able to show up in that space because of my own experiences. Um, and I'll give you an example. So I grew up in I just mentioned I grew up in a religious household. I don't know that my parents instilled in us what I'm about to share, but I think that um, other background is I also grew up with a parent as a teacher. And so there were very high expectations in terms of you do your work, you print your name this way, accomplishment, achievement, and there's great things about that. I mean, I think that it has in some ways really served me. I think that in other ways, I'm able to look at that and go, wow, I missed an entire step, it seems like, in evolution because I was so focused on that I couldn't focus
yeah.
on other. And so the way that that showed up in the church was a lot of like head nodding. I did what was told, what was asked of me. I didn't ask any questions. I didn't read for myself. Um, and I think at that age, that's kind of just what we do, right? Like we're put in a situation and this must be what everybody's experience is. So we kind of fall in line. And as I got older, I started going like, some of these things don't make sense to me. Like,
Mm,
but it also was looked highly upon to ask the question.
mm.
Um, it was kind of
It was or was not.
was not.
Was not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. It was very much like don't ask the question. Like just
Mm,
fall in line, do what you're supposed to do. If you ask the question, either you're questioning God or you're questioning authority.
yeah. Yeah.
Um, and that
Yeah.
felt very, I think maybe from my background, like don't do that. Like kind of intimidating, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I think
So
because of
both so it sounds like with the particular I know we use the word religion and that brings up a connotation,
yeah,
right? And it depends and I would say it depends on the particular type of religion. I know we're speaking from a
yep,
Western Christian centric um, point of view. Um, and I think that was your experience, right? If I'm not
yeah,
mistaken, was
correct,
yeah.
correct.
And so you're rewarded. I mean, you figured out how to be rewarded, to how to be successful, how to
Yeah,
keep your parents, how to keep, have them be happy with you. Um, yeah,
yeah.
you're like, this is this is working.
Yeah. And I think that bled into so many areas of my life. I mean, from church to home to school to friendships to eventually work. Um, and really having this, I mean, I'll call it arrogant or prideful mindset that there is
Mm,
one way the right way. Of
Yeah.
course, my way. Um, I'm doing it right.
Right.
Everyone else should figure it out. Um, and then I think I eventually had some connection to, I felt like I was very challenged in my workspaces.
Mm,
And I started feeling like, oh, like there's a lot of ways. I don't know most of them. I grew up in this very one way street. And not good, bad, right, or wrong. I mean, I look back at my childhood and it's like my parents were together, we had a happy home, my siblings were amazing. I mean, all those things. But I think you also look at where did I have experiences that were maybe different than others? And I think as we get older, we start to see like, oh, there's a whole new way that I didn't know anything about.
yeah.
And as I started to see that new way, I also started to see in myself maybe how in those other spaces I was kind of just falling in line for the sake of, to your point, like you want to be rewarded. You want to be told, like, good job, good girl, you did it right, pat on the ass kind of thing. Uh,
Yeah. And
and
did you find that you were able to perform to those expectations?
I was so interesting enough. Yes, I felt able to perform to those expectations. I wouldn't say that it didn't come without stress or fear.
Oh,
And I don't think I realized that at the time. I think I just felt like that was a normal, everybody should feel this driven. Everybody should feel this level of
right.
almost like mechanical movement and speed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I was able to look around me. If my brother hears this, my brother and I are very different in terms of our, what the world would think of as accomplishment or achievement.
Mm,
And I was able to get the A. I barely had to try. It was, and it was a lot of times interesting to me. Um, and so I very much engaged in that space. Whereas my brother's class clown, loves to get the laugh, just passes by on his tests. And at the time, I thought, this is ridiculous. Like, why is there a different standard for him than there is for me? And now I see it as a parent. My boys are wildly different.
yeah.
Um, and amazing strengths, amazing weaknesses, really different life paths and lessons.
Yeah.
But I think I was able to look at my brother over time and go, wow, like what used to frustrate me and wasn't recognized by normal societal standards. I look at his life now and I'm like, he had a social, emotional intelligence about him I never understood.
Yeah.
And I look at his, quote unquote accomplishments and achievements now, and I'm like, in my opinion, they're so much greater than the person who's academically achieving and getting the right answer. The way that he relationally moves in the world is amazing.
Well, you're pointing to the challenge of an educational system, which has to, I shouldn't say it has to, nothing has to. My apologies. That it's the educational system that we understand is geared towards the results of taking tests. And I have a, I joke, I have like a 600 and whatever day streak on Spanish Duolingo because I'm a good test taker, right? So I'm scoring really well. But then if somebody starts speaking, I'm like, I need to obviously drop myself in a country that speaks Spanish for a month to really have any, because it's not, I don't think some people are just like great with languages. I'm not sure. I don't know whether or not I am, but I do know that I'm a pretty darn good test taker, right? So, and so when it comes like to the academic, yeah, I scored well. Yes, I had to study. I mean, I had to do, I had to I guess I studied. I don't know. I always got my homework done before I went home. Um, so, but to your point, it's like we don't know. We only know ourselves and our quote unquote. Do we know do we walk around with I'm a something IQ or I have this level of, no, I think we're figuring it out. We're
Yeah.
figuring out how to be in the world ultimately. And if you're good in those academics, you're going to be shooting for the valedictorian or whatever that looks like. And obviously, some people are clearly aware that that's not their that's not their intelligence, right? So it may show up in acting or comedy or um, caring for others. I mean, there's just all these different ways that our intelligence can show up. And so, kind of getting back to we were talking about, kindness and grace. I had this thought that it's like, well, let's look up the word grace. 'Cause, we go to, well, what's
Mm.
the definition?
Yeah.
What's the well, everybody, there's the dictionary definition, but it's through, I think each of us, through our own perspective, grace, grace to someone who's like that person in the church, so to speak, or in religion versus what someone else would think of as grace,
Yeah.
totally, completely, wildly different. But for them, it's an expression of, to them, it would be an expression of grace. So
Did you look it up?
no, I just had the idea of looking it up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I love it. Well, it's curious because to your point, I mean, I feel like for a long time, even that word held like a lot of negative connotation.
Mhm.
Because my journey through the church had so many negative experiences.
Mm.
Um, and I don't know when it,
Was the experience negative, or was that upon maybe a reflection or so I'm just curious, was
yeah, I think what I would say is that as a like member of a parish kind of thing, I feel like I had an okay experience. Where I had negative experiences was when I was on staff at churches.
mm,
And I think seeing the disconnect between we say we're authentic, we say we're gracious, we say we forgive, we say we have all this doctrine,
mm,
but not seeing people put it into action or putting it into the opposite action was a real kind of like crisis of identity for me. Like I don't feel comfortable with that. That doesn't feel like in alignment for me.
mm,
Um, So yeah, back to the when I heard the word gracious, I keyed in once when someone was saying it, and I thought, yeah, that goes back to grace. But to your point, it's not a religious grace. It's a
mm,
how do we look at other people's journeys and accept that this is where they're at on their journey, regardless of what I might think of it or how I might think they should be acting or behaving or um, and not only being aware of that, but I think also appreciating it and
mm,
coming to a space of I'm going to adjust myself. I'm going to accommodate for them to be who they need to be.
mm.
And that to me is this element of grace. It's not like mercy, it's not like better than, less than.
Yeah.
It's like we're on this journey together.
Mm,
Even though we're on the journey together, we're at different steps or different stages or different whatever. One of the things you and I spoke about recently was spiral dynamics. And the premise is super simple, right? It's kind of this idea of we all have needs and desires. a basic need is survival up to the highest need or desire of we want to integrate into some form of wholeness. And I think one of the best ways I've heard it described is it looks like a spiral and it has different colors. And people have said, think of it like a video game, like levels on a video game. And none of the levels are better than, they're just different.
Mm.
And we don't delete any of the levels. We keep
Mm.
going to a next level. And we might have to come back. I don't know if you were ever like into video games, but I think back to like Nintendo and I was super into Tetris. And if I left it for a period of time and came back to it, I couldn't go back to the level I ended at. I seemed to have to like go back a couple levels to like get back to my last quote unquote accomplishment or achievement, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like that's for me grace in dealing with other people is that we're all on the same spiral, different spaces,
Mm.
different needs, different desires, um, and acknowledging that the journeys are different for a reason.
Yeah, when I think about if I think about the what you just shared relative to video games, and I pretty much uh got out of video games after Space Invaders, so
We're
this the truth
aging ourselves.
I know, right? I am so people know I'm a self-admitted frugalist. Is that a word? I don't know. I'm frugal. I was like 25 cents and I stink at this game, Asteroids. 25 cents and I get like a minute of joy? No, I'm buying a pack of bubble gum. That's gonna last me way more than this game of Asteroids, you know? So yeah, that was my analytic skill at a as a fourth grader or whatever, you know? But why do I listen to different teachers, right? Ram Dass or
Hmm.
Alan Watts, etc. And it's like I'm here. I know. I mean, it's like I've quote heard it before,
Right.
but every moment is a new moment, and life keeps providing me opportunities to either demonstrate that I've gotten the lesson,
Yeah.
or like, wow, no, I thought I understood.
Uh-huh.
Obviously, life is presenting me with more opportunities to get the lesson, and to be the lesson. Um,
Hmm.
so where was a can you think of a point where you had an experience that was like a sort of a breakthrough in
Mm.
awareness, as it relates to grace, like sort of a
Yeah. Yeah. So I think so I distinctly recall um back to my point about like, things being theory versus action oriented kind of thing.
yeah.
I distinctly recall starting to do things in community with people and in situations where it wasn't forced. I didn't have to be there. I was choosing to be there.
Mm.
Um, and acknowledging that I also then got to choose the people and spaces that I engaged. And for me, I started finding myself more attracted to these spaces where there was this common humanity, this common element, this thread of um, I'm here for you and you're here for me. Versus, I think a lot of times in the world, we're told, like, well, I'm here for myself. There's this very like autonomous approach. And
Can you give an
yeah,
example? Yeah, can you give an example maybe?
yeah, I think and not to knock the self-help space. I think it's important. I think it serves a purpose. But I also think in that space, something that comes up often for me is boundaries.
Mm,
So I think there's a real push and focus on boundaries, and you get to decide, like, you are this person and you can establish what you want around you and you can say yes or no or whatever. I mean, of course, certain circumstances require certain responses. But I think for me, what I was noticing is that a lot of those approaches were really arrogant and self-centered and lacking any awareness of other and
mm,
how we fit into the whole.
mm,
And so that's kind of, I think, where I found the grace piece in terms of talking with other people and hearing their journeys and realizing not everybody grew up like me. Um, and really sitting in that space of, I think to your point, opportunity. So there's this parable by Leo Tolstoy called Three Questions. And he basically tells the story of there's a hermit who's considered really wise. The king decides to seek out the advice of the hermit. And he says, I've got these three questions. Like, what is the most important time? Who's the most important person? And what's the most important thing to do? And after he asks those questions, the king goes into the woods and a man emerges. He's wounded. And the king takes the opportunity to care for the wounded man. But then he returns to the hermit and says, So remember, I had these questions. And the hermit kind of like laughs and says, You just had the opportunity to answer those questions, right? Like the most important time is now. Had you not been there, had you not engaged that opportunity, you wouldn't have been able to care for that wounded person. Like the most important person is the person that's in front of you, the person you're with, um,
mm.
which has wildly changed my perspective on my desire and need to really pay attention in the moment. Like I have a picture, a screensaver on my phone, and it looks like a watch. And on it, instead of having hands, it says now. And it's like I really try and focus on like there's nothing more important than like right now with this person. Um,
Can you imagine if we did not invent the concept of time? Now, it'd be really tricky to take a flight on an airplane anywhere
right,
to.
right, right.
Yeah.
Just show up when you feel like it.
Where are we going? Hey, cool. Let's go there. That would be kind of I mean, that could be very interesting. But yeah, this the idea of time. I remember I knew it was time for me to exit the corporate world when I was just like, oh my gosh, people, it's nothing's moving faster.
Mm,
But when I was in a world where it was all about technology and everything is speeding
right,
up. We got to make decisions more quickly. And I'm just like, no, we don't.
right,
It's
right.
all completely fabric.
Yeah.
But this getting back to, sorry, I probably got
Yep.
off the track there for a second, but um with the parable, uh it was it was some time ago where I had this I had heard about executive coaching since like the mid 90s, when
Mhm.
it's like first a thing.
Yeah.
Barely, I mean, I think I was barely out of college, and doing all the financial CPA investment management stuff, but it so appealed to me, the idea of it. Um, and I kind of have off and on thought about it. And then ultimately for myself, for my incarnation, it was like, you know what? I can actually make a difference at
Mm,
a moment. It doesn't have to be I am the coach and you are,
right.
it does not have to be this formal relationship. Like there's an opportunity to to be what you think that. the idea of that, the difference that that person would make for another, like
Yeah.
that's available
Yes.
with every person. And actually, for me, the contract and the scheduling the call and the dot dot dot, like that's gonna get in the way for me. Like that's friction that I just don't want to deal with, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, to that point, so like the last thing he says is the most important thing to do is something good for the person you're with.
mm,
And I think to your point, that's what I think you and I found in some of that similar space of executive coaching was I'm doing something good for this person I'm with. I am solely focused on you, and acknowledging that it doesn't have to move fast. But
mm,
to your point about, like working in
yeah,
corporate space where some of the best ideas come over time, or some of the best learning, or some of the best growth.
yeah.
Um, I read this, I don't know, I think you're a tea drinker. I can't remember. But do you
A
ever
bit more coffee, but I'll do an afternoon tea.
you get the tea with like the little tabs that have like almost like a fortune or a quote or something on it,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And one of the ones for me recently said something like nature doesn't hurry. I wish I could remember who it was from. Nature doesn't hurry, but like everything is always accomplished.
Mm,
And it reminds me of so many things. I mean, I think back to my religious space where, you think about the Lord's Prayer and it says, um, give us this day our daily bread. And I never knew what the heck that meant. I was like, I just said it because I was told to say it, and we all said it at the same time kind of thing. I wanted to like participate.
right.
But I look back and I'm like, wow, that statement is so huge about like show up in the moment. You're going to be provided for what you need for this moment.
Right.
Nature always blooms on its own time and it happens perfectly. Um, and I think that kind of maybe going back to the beginning of our conversation, I think that shift for me of focus on the body and very certain procedures of the way to do things versus really showing up and being there for someone in all their human messiness and acknowledging
Yeah.
my own messiness and kind of looking at each other and going like, well, what can we make out of our messes? Um,
Did you have, uh, so you grow up, you're in the church, you're following the rules, you're doing well in school, and did you have any points in time, as you're adulting in the world of, I don't want to say a rebellion, but of throwing it up in the air,
yeah,
so to
yeah.
speak,
I feel like you're
which
so
may have been, some moments of like courage, though, I mean,
yeah,
it's because it's going, yeah, counter to perhaps.
yeah.
Uh,
So it's interesting. I think for me in those spaces, and the reason I was laughing is because I was like, when you're being interviewed and you feel like someone's leading the question kind of thing, and I'm like, so for those in the audience listening, Nicholas and I met during my rebellious stage.
oh,
Um, but
I thought, yeah,
I think
it
it
could have
really
been
kind of
earlier.
goes, I
Yeah,
think it goes back a lot further too. I remember deciding I was going to leave pre-med.
yeah,
Um, and I distinctly remember telling my parents, and I thought they were going to be really disappointed. Even if I'm telling them that I'm going to school for theology, I felt like there was this level of disappointment.
mm,
And then after that, I was engaged to a man right out of college and broke off that engagement. And it started to feel like there was this escalation of what I think a lot of people would see as failure, like this girl who had this super straight and narrow path, was
mm,
always, performing and showing up in all the right ways.
yeah,
Um, all of a sudden doesn't know what she wants to do with her life
mm,
in terms of school, in terms of relationship, in terms of, I mean, anything. I felt this monster kind of like I don't know what I've been subscribing to all my life, but something is not working, something's not fitting. Um,
Mm,
and I think the biggest one for me came after my divorce. I realized afterwards which I think maybe there was a level of irony, the amount of care that I would put into my work
mm,
was not the same amount of care that I would put into relationships.
mm,
And I look back and I think, wow, like I behaved in certain ways or accepted certain behaviors that are outside of what I think are my values.
mm.
And then stepping away from a marriage and thinking, like, okay, now Christy's on her third strike, like now she's screwed up another thing.
Yeah.
And it was this moment, though, of like awakening and freedom for me
Mm,
because I felt like all of a sudden I was back to the drawing board and
mm.
questioning everything. And I feel like I've been in that space now for probably a good decade or so of
Yeah.
really questioning, like, why did I think this was the right way or the only way? Who gave me that thought? Or what book gave me that thought? Or what person gave me that thought? And really kind of acknowledging that the world is so much bigger than I ever gave it credit for. And it's like so much more wildly beautiful. And we have so many, uh, such a range of emotions that we can feel and experience. And in communion with others, like I think I used to think of things like if I feel angry or if I feel sad or if I feel upset, that's negative, that's bad. I should work
Right.
through it ASAP. Don't let anybody know about it. Uh,
Mm. I'm hearing like radical grace and kindness for yourself. Like
yes.
that was that's the first
Yes.
that's the first step.
So
Which
that's
we hear the cliche, put the mask on yourself first, you can help others,
yeah.
right? But
But I feel like to your point though, like it took me a handful of those moments to acknowledge that for myself. Um, and also to your point, like that's the personal journey that got me to my professional work was
mm,
really going like, I wish I had somebody to say, it's okay. I wish I had somebody to say, those feelings are normal.
mm,
I wish I had somebody to say, or even in action to sit with me in those moments and not judge or critique or expect.
mm,
Um, And I think also to your point, I don't think I was able to do that for others until I was able to do it for myself.
mm, mm. So how does that yeah, how does that show up in the work that you're doing in the
Yeah.
world?
Yeah, so I think if I remember right, you and I met when we were both doing some of that like leadership executive coaching space. And that was the first space for me. It really, the way that it showed up was I was given these opportunities to teach in certain spaces, mostly corporate workspaces, which was funny because I always said, I'll do whatever you want. Like, I just want to be behind the scenes. I don't want to talk. Like, don't put me in the stage kind of thing. And here I am. I talk all the time. And I think part of that was me also becoming like okay with myself.
Mm,
And in doing that, I was able to sit with some of these other people in the corporate space and go, I get that you're not your job. I get that you have a family at home. I
mm,
get that you've got medical things that you're dealing with. I get that, like fill in the blank.
yeah.
And so the first way that I was really doing a lot of that was through staff engagement surveys and really looking at like what makes people happy in their work? What makes them engaged? Why do they want to show up?
Mm,
And there was a huge correlation between leadership and how they were engaging their team, how they felt appreciated, respected, um, as if their contribution mattered. And then I was able to take that data as part of my thesis and translate it to you spend at least two-thirds of your life at work sometimes, like based on, not just being there, but like you go home, you think about it, you answer more emails, you answer your phone, you send texts, you whatever. Um, we're seeing those people a lot more sometimes than we're seeing our own family. And so the amount of parallel between your happiness level at work and your happiness level in life in general and how satisfied you are were mind-blowing to me. It seems like now that I know that, it seems well like duh, like it's just a matter of time kind of thing. Like where you spend your time, but I think it was such an aha to me that I didn't realize that people identify themselves so much by their work that it has such implications to their entire spectrum of life. Um, so as I was doing that, I was then asked to do some work in schools
Yeah.
around bullying prevention and restorative practices. And it was a lot of the same stuff. Like, how do we talk to each other? What words do we use? How do we engage? Do we say it's okay to show up in your human messiness? And so that's been my two biggest spaces is really in workplaces and in schools, and in workplaces in various industries, but a lot of really helping people just be human, show up as themselves, um, be as much a part of the party as they want to be.
Mm. Yeah, I experienced uh it was a challenge, it was an ongoing challenge to be my full authentic self
Hmm.
in the work, in the work world, uh feeling a level of having to sort of conform to survive,
Hmm.
because we have so much, we tie so much, whether it's our identity, our survival.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm curious if in your work or in in the surveys, et cetera, I mean, is my experience unusual or
No, and so I think your experience is incredibly normal. And even for people like yourself and I who have done a lot of the hard work, I
yeah.
think we can find ourselves in those same routines or patterns again. Um, and I think what was more common than not was that people didn't feel like they can, even now, they don't feel like they can be authentic or themselves. Um, because their authentic selves is not going to fall within that factory model of our education system or of our workplace system. There's feelings involved, there's emotions involved, uh, there's ways in which we do things that and I think this happens in families. I think it happens in schools and in workplaces where, well, we do it this way because we've always done it this way.
Hmm.
And it's like, well, yeah, but like I kind of had a different idea and it might totally fail. It might totally flop. But what if we try it this way?
Yeah.
And it's super rare and uncommon that leaders are open to that question because back to your questioning authority.
Yeah.
If there was a better way to do it, they'd have told us there was a better way to do it, right?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of times people show up with their masks on to work. I think that's way more common than showing up authentically in the
Mm.
workspace. And that's for me where the big rub came, and I was like, I can't be in this space anymore as a minion in terms of like I'm going to work Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. For me, I had to step out of that space. And I think the reason I connect with people in my work is because I give them that permission to be authentic, because I'm being authentic with them. I'm telling them, like, it doesn't matter that I have these degrees. It doesn't matter that I have this experience. It doesn't matter, like, fill in the blank. I want to know what you think. And then based on what you think, let's have a conversation. And I want to really know, like, I worked with a group that was super interesting. Large healthcare organization had a leader say, I want you to come in and work with my group on our staff engagement survey results and how we operate as a team and blah blah blah. So I go in and I gave her my content ahead of time. And I said, so here's what we're going to do. I've got this book I really like. It's called Five Dysfunctions of a Team. He's got a couple questions in there. I think it'd be really great for us just to kind of go through with your group. Like, where were you born? Like, super simple questions in my mind. Where were you born? How many siblings did you have? What were your parents like? Um, and she knew this before I got there. But as I'm there and I say, so I start with the leader to set the example of, then we're going to go around. She says, I don't share those kinds of things at work. And I'm thinking, here I am, you just paid me to come in here, and now I don't know what to do. But um, I said, well, that's interesting. Like, can you tell me why? And, she gave me her little pat answer of like, well, we don't talk about those kinds of things at work. And I said, well, let me give you an example, a real example from your team. There's been a woman who's been coming in. And she used to be I'm going to make the coffee and check in with everybody in the morning, and we're all going to have team lunches and celebrate holidays. And you start noticing that she's off. She's not making the coffee anymore. She doesn't care about having lunch with people. She's sitting in her own cube. And you ask her, I'm sorry, not you ask her, but instead
Yeah.
of people asking her, hey, what's going on? Are you all right? Everybody says, hey Nicholas, I noticed that Joni lately has like not been herself. Like, what do you think? And you're like, well, I don't know. Let's ask John what he thinks. And then
Right.
John's like, well, I don't know. Let's ask, Martha what she thinks. And before you know it, everybody's talking about Joni instead of talking to Joni. And I said, if you would have asked her, what you would have found out was her mom just died, her dad's in hospice. She's an only child. No one else is there to take care of them. She's trying to get her kids to their sporting events and participate. She's a single mom. She feels like she's failing everywhere. And this is the one place where she's trying to catch her breath. And so I think, back to your point about authenticity, people don't bring those things because there's judgment around it.
Yeah.
Um, I'm weak. I'm less than. I'm not good enough. When instead it's like, no, you're just a human on this point in your journey. And how can we support you?
When like if you really if you asked people to open up about their life and what they're managing and what they feel
Mhm.
responsible for, and it's a wonder anybody shows up at
Right?
all.
Yeah.
I mean, really, it's and so and when they when they do, asking them to sort of set that aside, um,
Mhm.
and essentially be you know, a doing machine,
Yeah.
um, versus giving them this, well, again, back to the grace, providing really, if practicing grace with one another, um,
Well, I think it goes to also, just as you were mentioning, like it reminded me of capacity. Like we as humans have a limited capacity.
right, should be about a 3-hour workday.
Right? And I think but there's no acknowledgement of that.
Yeah.
Um, that we have this capacity. And in the education space, what I feel like I've been seeing a lot of, and then I was really excited to see this woman actually do an academic paper on it, was or is uh, neurodivergence, the uptick, the increase in diagnoses.
Mm,
And her conclusion and what her research shows is that neurodivergence is simply a mismatch between the environment and our innate capacity. So we're being asked to do something or behave or perform in a way that we're not wired to do.
Right. Right. And so the human being screams
Mhm.
or
Yes.
quiet or I mean reacts in a particular way and is just expressing that divergence.
Yeah. And for me, those are moments that I feel like I cue into and I'm super curious about. And I'm like, I want to know why that person's doing that. Because, like, to your point, I think what they're saying is I'm screaming out, whether they're actually in the corner fawning or, freaked out or they're fight, flight, whatever it is. It's like they're giving us information.
Right.
I think a lot of times we're not doing anything with that information. Instead, we're just making a judgment about it and in our own
And
head conclusion.
trying to manage it to have it go away.
Yeah.
And tell me more about what kindness means to you.
Mm. Yeah, so I struggled with that word initially when it came up in my space. And the way that it came up was I was trying to explain to people, what do I do? Because, at dinner meetings, people would ask, and I'm like, I don't know, I'm somewhere in between like working with kindergartners and teaching them like basic, like be kind to each other skills, like, treat each other the way you want to be treated, golden rule kind of thing. And working with executives where I'm saying like, why can't you just like do basic things like talk to each other, like play nice in the sandbox? Like, it was really like a huge disconnect for me. Um, but what I found, I think it fell under was this space of what I for myself coined kindness in terms of what I'm doing is I'm teaching people how to be kind. I'm teaching them how to sit with themselves and be aware, adjust, accommodate, uh, feel more confident in their own space, have that level of grace. And then when they're able to do that, I'm helping them do it with whatever it was, their partner, their kids, people at their workplace, people in the community. Um, and I felt the need to kind of differentiate that there was a difference between being nice and being kind. For me, nice was a lot more about maybe social acceptance, kind of like I'm expected to behave in this certain way. So I'm going to put on my mask and I'm going to do it. Um,
It's the nice thing. That would be the nice thing to do,
right. Yeah. Um,
wherever that definition, where that definition comes from within that little group or that
right.
culture or that community, right?
Like I might, in that example, I might, for friends, I might say to you, like, Nicholas, you're a real asshole. But I smile when I'm saying it, and I might like touch your leg or your arm, and I'm just really trying to like be in space with you, deliver a message. Um, and I'm doing it in a nice way, even though the message might not be nice. Whereas
Yeah.
I think the kind aspect is for me, it's an action, and it's me acknowledging whatever information or signals you are giving me, and me being able to respond and say, not with judgment or a conclusion, but with curiosity and being able to say, like, man, I've noticed you haven't been yourself lately. Like, is everything okay? Is there anything you want to talk about? What have you been up to? Just a genuine, like, I'm interested in you and where you're at and tell me more. I'm not making a judgment about it. I'm coming to you with I'm wanting to be kind in that space. I'm wanting to acknowledge like my human spirit sees your human spirit. How can I help?
So it sounds like grace is a beingness and
Mm,
kindness is an action. That's
yeah.
like what I'm hearing.
Yeah, like, it feels like grace is like a way of being, kind of like an overarching value um of who we are. And kindness is how do I display that grace?
Do you have any examples in your life where and, and obviously it'd be only be something that you'd be comfortable
Yeah.
sharing outside of this conversation. But
Right, right.
I life is my teacher Ram Dass will say, grist for the mill. Life continues to give us opportunities to practice what we
Mhm.
preach or what we
Yeah.
think or feel.
Yeah. Example, do you have an idea of so an example of me
I don't for
feeling?
yourself. Yeah, just for yourself um, in your life where grace and kindness have been, you know, have made a difference or um,
I think my main space that I would say it's made a difference is in relationships. Um, Something that I read recently said something to the effect of like validation is not agreement. And
mm,
the reason I bring that up is kind of back to my upbringing. And I wrote a book recently, and I opened this book with a story about an interaction with my mom. And
the title of the book,
the
Kristi
title
Trader,
of the book is
Trader, Chrissy with an
what?
I.
Right? Thank you.
Yes.
Title of the book is Embody Kind,
Mhm.
A Guide to Authentic Living.
Mm,
And so I opened the book with the story about my mom and this interaction I have with her. And it was so interesting after the fact to hear her perspective of that same interaction.
mm,
Me realizing, like, oh, I don't have to agree with her perspective, but I can validate that that was her perspective. And I
mm,
think that concept changed a dynamic between her and I that I think was very common, uh, two females in a space kind of thing. And then I joked with her once I moved out when I was older. I said, I finally realized like we don't get along because two queen bees cannot be in the same hive. Like this makes sense to me now. Um, but it's so funny to see like in some ways how similar I am to her and the space of being able to go like, even with siblings, we grew up in the same house, and I bet you if you asked my siblings and I our experience, we would all have wildly different stories. I think there would be some similar foundations, but
yeah.
I think the way we experience it is different.
Mm,
Um, and so I think I've experienced that in space with my mom, and then I think as a mom, I've experienced that. Um, really looking at my boys and seeing how wildly different they are, having some weird, I don't know what the word is, maybe like expectation or assumption of the way things are going to play out. And instead of working on that assumption or expectation, really checking my clock that has now written on it and going, I don't know what's going to happen.
mm,
And really looking at them and going like, wow, they've both got these amazing strengths, but they're wildly different. They've both got these weaknesses that are wildly different.
mm,
The way I show up for them is wildly different. And I think, the point of authenticity that we've been talking about, and in my book, some people would say, like, well, you're not being authentically yourself. And I'm like, well, no, I am, but I'm also being mindful and gracious and kind to their experience and how they're showing up and what they're feeling,
mm.
and what their personality is and how they might resonate with the interaction. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I think for me, the biggest space has been relationships and that level of seeing people for what they really are. Um, and honestly believing I I don't think people mean harm. I think people are operating from the best space they know how. I think they're doing the best they can. I think they're showing up with the tools and resources they have. And if or when they know better or different, they do better or different.
Yeah. We I know you had shared, I think we talked about the idea that we teach what we need to learn.
Yeah,
So in coaches will say, I get as much from my coachee as perhaps they get because I'm hearing myself.
yeah.
I'm yeah. So is that sounds like
Totally rings
fair,
true.
a fair assessment in your path in your
Yes. It actually, so that stemmed from an interaction I had with a supervisor that I was not a fan of at all. Was just really surviving the relationship. And she gave me an assignment to create curriculum around communication. And I thought, that is so dumb. Like, who doesn't know how to talk to each other? Like, I don't even know what to say in this thing. Like, it just seems so ridiculous to me. Some kind of like exercise in futility, you know? And as I was doing it, I learned so much. And it went back to my parents would tell me often when I was young, Kristi, it's not what you say, it's the way you say it. And at the time, I couldn't hear them. I'm like, whatever, you know? And as I,
with your eyes rolled up in your head.
right?
Yeah.
They don't know what they're talking about. They're not on this same path to enlightenment. I got this. So I sat with it and I really realized that's I think kind of where some of the compassion and grace came from. Um, but about, teaching what we need to learn, I think it was this idea for me of kind of to your point of coaches. I have a loved one who's an addict, and I recently saw a job description to be a recovery coach.
Mm.
And I sent it to them and I was like, I think this could be really great. And I'm just curious. So I looked through the job description, and the very first thing it says is that you must be in active recovery for 2 years. And the one part of my brain who works in workspaces and has done all this strategy and worked in human resource spaces is like, that's the wildest thing I've ever heard. Why the hell would you want a recovering addict working for you? Like, and then I thought, oh, like similar to myself, people are going to acknowledge and see them in a way they're not going to hear me.
Yeah.
I've been able to tell my boys, they were both athletes, and I'm like, students are going to hear from you in a way that they're not going to hear from me. I'm just this white mom showing up to a classroom, and they're like, yeah, okay, my mom told me the same thing this morning. Whereas you put somebody in that space who's more like them,
Yeah.
and they're able to see and acknowledge the potential truth.
Mm. I'm curious if you have any particular mantras at the moment that you find yourself repeating either to yourself or to others
Yeah.
at this like uh I mean the word is for me the word is showing up, this word unfolding
Mm,
is like is even showing up in some of my song lyrics at the moment. It's this reminder that all is now, it's
yeah.
unfolding before us, and I am simply curious um, to see how. Like I feel that I am simply a witness to the unfolding,
Mm,
which means I'm pretty lousy currently at making any sort of strategic plans because I'm like, yeah, I don't.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Even the idea that I can give something direction, right? Which was, oh my God, I wrote a book on doing that 20 years ago. So don't go back to that much anymore. So I'm curious. I mean that's like my
Yeah.
my
That word is gonna stick with me, for a lot of reasons. But so there's two I think I would point to. One of them is the Ho'oponopono prayer. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's super simple. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And then I always add on for myself, because one of the things I feel like I'm working on a lot is non-attachment. So, like, I release you to your highest path and me to mine, and so it is. Um, so kind of appreciating my own unfolding, appreciating other people's unfolding. Um, the
Mm.
Ho'oponopono prayer, wild, if you ever get a chance to look it
Can you
up.
say it? Can you say it more slowly? Because I'm not sure that I'm hearing it.
Yeah. So, I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you.
Mm. And it's the say what prayer is it again?
Ho'oponopono.
Hopo ono.
Yep. It's
Gotcha.
it's from a Hawaiian psych ward.
Ah, okay.
A psychiatrist, they were gonna shut down this mental hospital if they couldn't turn it around. And the psychiatrist they found wasn't really engaging a lot of the patients.
Mm.
And they asked the question like, "What are you doing? Like, what are we paying you to do here exactly? Like, what's going on?" And he said, "Oh, I read their files every day." And they're like, "That's awesome. What do you do with the files, you know?" And he said he got to the point of saying that prayer over every file every day. And that prayer changed the way that the people were interacting with each other, the way that the staff was interacting with each other, the way that the people, the inmates were acting with each other. And eventually it did close down because there was no more need for their services. So it didn't close down because they weren't able to turn it around. It closed down literally because they turned it around in a way that they didn't
Right.
consider was possible.
Right.
Um, but it changed the way that people saw each other.
Mm.
Like a lot of times people might feel offended or slighted, and I don't even know they feel offended or slighted.
Yeah.
But I'm able to say, I'm sorry. I didn't intend to do that to you, right? I'm able to ask for your forgiveness. I'm able to say in that space, like, I love you.
Mm.
And so for me, it's been this real like connection to human spirit. Um, and then the last part for me is I now release you to your highest path and me to mine. And so it is. And so this idea of almost
Mm.
everything in life is impermanent.
What's can you what's the exception, Christy?
I knew you were going to ask that. And it was funny because as I said that, I thought in my head, I'm like, what is permanent?
Why did I say almost everything?
What is permanent? I don't, that's so interesting. I feel like I'd have to think about, like, are there exceptions? Um,
Mm.
you even think about things like water, right? I mean, it could be ice and then it's water. I don't know. Like, that's not permanent. I guess it's still water, but yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting observation and question.
Mm.
Uh, I'm gonna think on that. We might have to come back to it. Do you have ideas?
I do.
Yeah, tell me. I want to know.
All is temporal. All is unfolding. All is the now.
Yeah.
And I, and with that, I, I think that there's tremendous struggle that we humans have because we are trying to create some sense of permanence, whether
Mhm.
it's through structures, legacies, the idea of history, the idea of a future. Like to me, it's all trying to create something that is other than what is.
Yeah. Which really, I think for me, one of the neat things as I've grown older and wiser is to observe impermanence around me and things being in a dynamic state
Mm.
and being comfortable with that. And I'm not sure I would have said that when I was younger, but now I see such incredible beauty in it, and I feel like I have such appreciation for it. Um, yeah, unfolding.
right? I like to finish up these conversations with sort of a what didn't we get a chance to talk about that you'd like to talk about or you would have liked to have addressed or shared? I'm glad we got your book Embody Kind by Kristi with an I, Trader DER. Got that. So, but we'll be sure in the show notes, as they say, we'll be sure to include links
Yeah.
to your website and where people can find out more about your book. But is there anything that maybe you would have liked to have talked about or shared?
I can think of off the top of my head. I feel like, and this is kind of part of me being like unattached to outcomes, is that I feel like I've become a lot more comfortable with like what is, or like what has happened. And I usually feel like a pretty good peace about that.
Hmm.
Um, Something I did, I printed it out so I could read it correctly, but and it's funny because it goes back to mantras, something that has been it's been a part of my life forever. Like as long as I can remember. I don't know that I had necessarily words for it. Um, and then a gentleman, his name's Rob Bell, wrote it in one of his books. It was like the conclusion to one of his books.
Hmm.
And it is something that I feel like has carried me through so many things. And here's what it says. I'll read it kind of slow.
Yeah.
It, um, I'm convinced. I'm convinced being generous is a better way to live.
Mm,
I'm convinced forgiving people and not carrying around bitterness is a better way to live.
mm,
I'm convinced having compassion is a better way to live. I'm convinced pursuing peace in every situation is a better way to live.
mm,
I'm convinced listening to the wisdom of others is a better way to live.
mm,
I'm convinced being honest with people is a better way to live.
mm,
And so I think that's what I would end with in terms of, I mean, I think we probably got to all those things. I love how he just encapsulates it in those couple phrases. And
mm,
I don't always remember them, but I feel like I remember blurbs of them at given times. And just that constant mantra in the back of my head is I'm convinced that fill in the blank is a
mm.
better way to live.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Let's, I want us to repeat the Hopo Ono.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I'll read that. I'll say that one more time. So I love you.
I love you.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Please forgive me.
Please forgive me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I now release you
And I release you,
to your highest path
your highest path,
and me to mine.
and me to mine.
And so it is.
And so it is. Well, I think that's a wonderful place for us to finish this conversation, Christy.
Yeah. I loved it. That was
Yeah.
special. Um,
Thank you.
and thank you because I think it really this conversation I appreciate that it's just been so casual and cool and something that we would just have a glass of coffee or wine over kind of thing. Um, and I think it speaks to just the enormity of your human spirit and the way that you connect with people. And that has been deep bow to you, a big blessing in my world. So thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Christy.
Yeah.
Stories from the heart, stories honest and true. The one